Hey everybody, this is Fi. We're checking out Delving Mount Wefi. This is a game I've not played before. We're going to give it a playtest and see if we can give some useful feedback. And I've got the game page open here. This is apparently an HTML5 game. There's no downloadable version, so we're going to play it right in the browser here. And it says WASD to move. Blue circle is U, IJKL to shoot. White doors are locked. Press space to teleport back a room. Charge meter in top left. Press E to bomb. And controller also supported. Right bumper to bomb. Left bumper to teleport. Okay. Interesting. So it seems to be like 4-direction shooting. Be rather like Binding of Isaac, I suppose. We'll try that out, and then maybe I'll grab the gamepad. I might prefer that, but we'll try it with the keyboard at first. Let's just go ahead and I guess we'll click on easy here, see what happens. All right. All right, looks like I'm a blue circle. It's really kind of herky-jerky looking. Not very smooth. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Looks like we can shoot. Yeah, it does not look like very stable frames here. I don't know if that has something to do with it being in the browser or whatever. Let's see if we can... Looks like there's no full screen option that we can find in here. Let's try that. All right. Try this again. So I believe it said white doors are locked. Does that mean that this is... All right, I can go through... Oh. I'm sticking here, but I can go a little bit further. I don't know. I guess that's... Can't go in there for some reason. Looks like your bullets are... Oh, what the heck are those white bullets doing moving around like that? Those are bullets, right? Why did they chase me? That's weird. Oh, and now I'm flashing. Did I get hurt? Okay, my bullets have limited range. I don't know why all these white ones are like chasing me. Still, it does not feel like I guess that hit me. It doesn't feel like your typical bullets or whatever. Something over here is touching me. I don't know if it's one of these lines in the background. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, there's red stuff. That's blood, right? I guess. Oh, maybe not. I guess the red stuff is actually like bullets or something that hurts you. Let's go ahead and click on easy again. So yeah, a few things I note so far. You can see that your bullets kind of inherit your inertia here, which in my opinion is more annoying than anything. Like it does make it so you can sort of shoot a little more diagonally, but I think in my opinion that just makes these kinds of games more annoying. It's just more consistent if the bullets don't inherit your inertia like that. So I definitely prefer that, but apart from that, a few things here. So on the movement, it seems like there's not... Okay, interesting. So there's not really like a startup inertia, I guess, but you slowly stop when you stop moving like that. That could potentially be annoying if you're trying to like actually weave between bullets and such. It can be maybe a little annoying, but I like that you pretty much pick up speed instantly, so that's helpful because it's nice and responsive. Excuse me. The player bullets are very slow, which is another thing that I find tends to be quite annoying, and just makes the whole game feel like less responsive. It makes it a lot harder to kind of aim at and hit enemies, and it's just one of those things where it's like it sort of makes things like unnecessarily hard. It doesn't really like feel good to just like have to sit there and wait for the bullet to get there, and then like when it finally gets close to the enemy, maybe the enemy has already moved or whatever and it doesn't hit them. It's like really unsatisfying and annoying. And you're just kind of spraying bullets and praying. For these kinds of games, if you make the player's bullets really nice and fast, it just feels much more responsive, and it's kind of easier to aim in a way that feels a lot better and such. So I definitely recommend that. I'm not really sure the thought process behind the lifetime of the bullets, making it so you can't shoot very far. That's also, in my opinion, kind of mildly annoying, but I guess in some sense that means you have to get a little bit closer. But I think in particular the way that kind of interacts with the inherited inertia here, or inherited velocity or whatever, makes it kind of particularly bad, because if you're like going backwards and you're shooting, your bullets end up being really slow, and then it's like they can't get very far before they disappear. So these are all things I would change. Another thing I noticed is that the collision apparently is like exactly your sprite here. And in shooter games like this, I definitely recommend making the player's collider a lot smaller than just like the sprite itself. This is quite sizable for the kind of bullets you have and how kind of small and packed together they are. You can't really like squeeze in between things very well. So it gets quite, it doesn't feel very good when these bullets just like ever so slightly graze your player sprite, and then you end up taking damage for it. It's pretty unsatisfying. I guess this is one of those. Oh, I thought that was a locked door. It was white. I don't really know how this works. Yeah, I definitely recommend making that a lot smaller. In general, just using like the sprite itself as the colliders is usually something I would suggest avoiding for a shoot 'em up here, or most games in general. It's interesting how the enemy things, like I guess that one didn't, but some of them shrink. Oh, that hurts me too. That does not look like something that should hurt me. It's so dark and desaturated, it looks like it just fades into the background here. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting how like that one enemy like shrinks as you shoot it, so it becomes harder to shoot again. Looks like I just keep getting health. I don't know if there's a max. Bombs 2, coins 3, health 6. Alright, I can leave now. I don't know. It said white doors are locked, but this one on the bottom looked white, and then I walked through it, and then at the top here it looks gray, but I couldn't walk through it. I don't really know what what is meant to be going on here, if that's working correctly or whatever. I can't really tell if a door is locked or not. Looks like we have 3 coins. We have what looks like a sword, a shield, another sword, and like a missile or something. These are really quite small icons, so they're not that readable. Might be nice to kind of blow those up a bit. I guess we have more enemy things. So yeah, I find it kind of annoying when you try to make little adjustments to your alignment, and it like throws your bullet off in a diagonal instead of just going sideways like usual. And yeah, so these red bullets are, in my opinion, they don't stand out very well. So like I thought they were just like little blood sprays or something, just for visual effect at first. I didn't realize they would actually hurt you. It just doesn't look like something that would to me. It looks like this thing actually grows bigger. I don't know what this is. Is that a bomb? I think that was a bomb. Alright, yeah, so these bullet sprays, they're very kind of packed together. And again, like with the size of my collision, I don't really have any option to sort of avoid or try to weave through any of these bullets or anything. It's just like kind of just go straight backwards or something. Try and get away from them. Yeah, I still don't understand the colors of the doors here. I guess the white ones I've gone through, like, they lock behind you or something until you kill whatever's in here. Alright, still getting health. It's not topping off or anything. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see these enemies and stuff stand out against the background a bit more. It kind of just looks like they don't really read as something that's part of the game necessarily when you first go into the room. So everything's quite abstract. Alright, still getting health. Another key, one of these really dark colored enemy things. So yeah, another thing is your rate of fire is pretty slow, which sometimes can kind of be okay if you have your game kind of designed around an idea that you might upgrade it later and like get a lot more, but in general it's another thing that, in my opinion, it feels a lot better for shooter games like this if you can like shoot a higher rate of fire. In addition to like what I said before about like the bullet velocity. Alright, these guys spew a lot of kind of nasty. Oh, there's a guy there. So those guys had bullet patterns that were a little harder to avoid. They're very small bullets too. Alright. Yeah, in my opinion, so I'm doing this a lot where I'm like trying to make these little tiny adjustments because especially with the way that the 4-direction shooting works, you have to like really line yourself up on, you know, either the vertical or the horizontal axis of the enemy you want to shoot at, obviously. So while you're doing that, you have to kind of make these little adjustments to make sure you're aligned properly, and just the fact that there's this sort of inertia effect where you kind of keep sliding for a bit after you try to stop moving, it kind of messes you up in that, so you can't really make the little adjustments that you want. I would suggest, for this kind of game, just remove any inertia at all. In my opinion, that works best. It's just very... It looks like I maxed out my health finally. It's makes things very responsive, and it's better for, you know, avoiding these little bullet storms and stuff. I don't know what the green blocks in the top left are. I don't know if that's anything related to gameplay or whatever. So yeah, this is interesting because you have to kind of get on the same axis as they're shooting to shoot it down. Alright, we have 2 keys, I guess. I guess at some point we've used up ones that we've collected. I don't think there's a map. We have E to bomb, which I haven't needed at this point. Space to teleport back. A room. Oh, the charge meter in the top left. Okay. I guess that would be... I don't know if that's just to get you out of trouble, or if maybe there's some other use you could find for it. But yeah, I think I mentioned I don't think there's a map that I've seen, and the levels seem to be pretty sizable, and it's not... Wait, what the heck? It's not obvious where to go next. I think I missed a door somewhere. At this point, I feel like my movement speed is too slow. Like, if I wasn't just running through rooms like this, I wouldn't notice it so much if I was just, like, fighting with enemies and stuff. But you might consider bumping that up a little. I mean, if you just... In general, the game feels pretty slow. So I think there's a lot that you could kind of tweak up for the speeds and stuff. You know, the speeds of the bullets I think are pretty important. Okay, we got back here. Alright, so yeah, it's easy to get kind of lost. The I don't know how long this goes on for, but it seems like we found quite a few rooms, so like having so many rooms but not any sort of map or anything to speak of, it's a bit hard to keep track of stuff for sure. If this was in the form of like, whoa, that's not very nice, okay. You probably don't want to spawn, oh, excuse me. You probably don't want to spawn the enemy right on top of you when you enter the room there. I don't know what this little square is. I guess that's just part of like, I think there's some kind of randomized decoration or something with these lines. Oh, alright, so again, this guy was kind of close. I mean, I might have been able to avoid him. I just, I was kind of like looking more to the right side of the screen, and just kind of holding the the right movement button as I entered the room, so I didn't really see this guy before I ran into him. Oh. It's a little hard to see those red bullets. Alright, another key. We got plenty of keys. Alright, a few more coins here. Alright, that guy sprays a bunch of purple stuff. It takes him a while to make up his mind to do that. I wonder if you might want to have some kind of telegraph on the enemies here when they're about to shoot. That can be nice. Some of these, like this purple one, just kind of do it in like a really kind of continuous pattern that's very predictable, so you don't necessarily need that. But if one of them is just sitting there and apparently not doing anything for a while, then all of a sudden like this giant spray of bullets flies out, that can be pretty unpredictable for a player, so you might want to have some kind of a telegraph. Oh, a little coin. Yeah, starting to feel like I'm a little bit slow in the movement speed here. I almost ran right into this thing, even though I didn't necessarily want to buy that. I guess I haven't gotten any upgrades yet, which is interesting, because usually if you have upgrades like this in a game like this, you kind of want to feature that as like a pretty core component to the game. I've only seen one room like this so far, and I saw it at a time when I didn't have enough to buy anything, so I feel like maybe it was... you could consider the general progression of the game, maybe it was like a little bit too much time before I could actually get any upgrades ever. Like, this is the first opportunity I have since I started this playtest that I've been able to like actually get any upgrades here. So, okay, this is weird. So we have this missile looking thing which says $1, and then this identical looking icon that says $6. Like, I have no idea why that would be different priced. I have no reason to believe that this is different in any way, but the, being priced, this being 6 times as expensive, seems to suggest that there's some kind of difference here. So I don't really know what's going on here. It'd be nice to make that a little bit more clear. My general inclination would be that like a sword might be your attack power or something, and then this shield looking thing would be your defensive power. And then maybe this has something to do with upgrading your bullets, like your bullet speed or something. So I'm going to try to pick this up. I don't know, did it make my bullets go faster? I can't really tell anything has changed. Alright, I got the $6 one. Are they moving faster? Alright, so it's a little bit too... I think they might be moving a little bit faster, but it's just so subtle, it's hard to even get a sense that anything has changed, unfortunately. So I think a couple of things. For one, of course, you generally want the player to be able to like feel the difference when they get an upgrade, because if it's too gradual, it's like you can't even tell, so you don't really get that sort of dopamine of the feeling of getting a power up, if you just can't really tell it's there. The other thing is, I think it'd be nice if you showed on the screen somewhere like what kind of power-ups you currently have, or your stats or whatever, because it's a lot easier for the player to kind of keep track of what they have currently if they can reference it on the screen, and it gives player a better sense of their own progression in the game and stuff. It really helps a lot, in my opinion, rather than just like trying to remember. It doesn't feel the same, I guess. You get a better sense of like what exactly you're getting every time you get an upgrade and that kind of thing. sort of regret getting the shield one because I'm assuming that's some kind of like defensive power, like maybe that'll reduce the damage you take. But I haven't needed anything like that, so maybe I should have just saved the coins because so far I just have so much health and nothing has been very dangerous. So yeah, I just bought like a bunch of upgrades, but I don't really feel significantly more powerful. All right, yeah, so stored room 3, active room 4. Okay, that's really weird. I guess this is for debug or something because those numbers don't mean anything to me as the player. But yeah, the whole layout of the game here, the dungeon or whatever, it seems quite large. Like there's all these rooms that are kind of sprawling all over the place at this point, so it's definitely just like more and more difficult to keep track of the longer it goes on. So in that case, I didn't really have the ability to escape that because there was like a wall here. I couldn't run backwards, so I could only run this way, and ended up getting hit. So that's something I suggest you want to do your best to avoid is these kind of situations where the player can't avoid damage. Sometimes sort of inevitable, like if the player really does something kind of stupid, they might put themselves in, they get like really crammed into the corner and they're surrounded by enemies. Sometimes you can kind of blame the player, but for the most part, it's often something that you can and should avoid as the designer to try to prevent these situations where like suddenly there's some kind of attack or whatever that the player just can't avoid and they have no choice but to take damage. And that, I think in that particular case where you have this kind of big exploding enemy, it would just come down to, oh, why did I get hurt? I did not see anything touch me. That was very strange. But I think it just comes down to like ensuring that there's actually like a room for the player to kind of squeeze between the bullets there. Which, depending on how far away you are, is not always the case. For the most part, like I said, I've just been kind of running directly away from it, which I don't think is really ideal. But if you have, you manage the size of the player collider and also like the spacing between the bullets, you can avoid these kinds of things. Okay. So again, it's like one more room that has 4 directions is just kind of a lot. I'm actually wondering, oh, this is locked. I don't think I can pick that up right now. So yeah, I'm just kind of like sitting and waiting for my bullets to reach that guy to kill him. It kind of feels bad. I wish that progressed a little bit more quickly here. Okay, this is locked again. Yeah, so far not really any challenge to speak of. I don't know, does this end at some point? It's been going for quite a while and it doesn't seem like there's much changing. Like I'm not encountering new enemies that I can tell. And yeah, again with that guy that just shoots that spray of purple bullets, there's not really any room there to like to weave between the bullets or anything. You just kind of run backwards, or in that case you can kind of sidestep it, I guess. But generally with these kinds of games you want to work in some ways that you can kind of weave in between stuff. It makes for a more interesting play, I think. And again, it avoids some of these situations where the player just has no options. Okay. Now do their bullets disappear the moment that they die? Is that what happened there? Whoa, hello. Okay, so another one of these situations where it's like I walk in the room and just get hit instantly. I don't think I really need this, no. So I guess... I don't know if there's like a... Oh. I didn't think I would have touched that guy, but I guess between the colliders being kind of extreme and that little bit of slide after you stop moving, I guess it just ended up bumping that guy a bit when I didn't think I was going to. Okay, I tried the bomb button for a change. That wasn't really what I expected. That didn't do very much. Oh yeah, that's quite weak. Like I have plenty of bombs, so it's not like they're super rare or anything, but usually when you have like a bomb and a shmup, it just like kills everything on the screen, you know, something like that. Or at least like in a big area directly around you. But in this case, it just kind of sprays bullets, and like 2 or 3 of them might hit the enemy, but they're just like normal powered bullets, I guess, so they just don't do that much damage. It feels very weak. And yeah, I would suggest if you're gonna have bombs in the game, might as well make them, you know, have some oomph to them. We have a $0 item here. That seems like a good deal. So yeah, I think there might be just some randomization going on here. So it might be the case that these are all identical, but one of them is $1, one is $2, and one is $7. It just seems quite ridiculous in my opinion. And again, like I'm assuming those are shields. I'm not sure, but like if they are, I don't see that actually helping me much because I haven't had any like risk of dying or anything yet. Oops. Yeah, those colliders, I'm very not used to the way that feels, where it's just like, I think I'm completely safe, but then all of a sudden, like, I'm taking damage because something managed to brush up against me ever so slightly. So I think my bullets are doing more damage than they were before. Again, it'd be nice to have some kind of indication on the screen, like how much damage am I dealing, that kind of thing. To the upgrades I've bought. It seems like enemies are dying faster, which is also interesting because I don't think anything has actually gotten harder. Oh, okay. I think I killed that guy like the moment before that big spray actually hit me, but again, that was like, I definitely think you should have a telegraph on that enemy, because I was not expecting that to come out. Alright, we're back to just walking through empty rooms. It feels very slow. These things. We have a lot of coins, I guess. Have I been over here? Apparently. So, are these white things actually enemies? I think they are. So you're supposed to kill them too. It's interesting to have an enemy that emits more enemies like that. Oh, this guy just shoots in any direction. Is that new? I think that's new. But he's not very hard. I mean, that's that's not very threatening. Alright. Yeah, so this just keeps going. Like, I'm wondering, is this meant to just go on forever? Is it actually just like random generated and infinite or something? Because what does this guy even do? He shot like a big It's only shooting downwards. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, if this is infinite, it doesn't seem like it's actually getting harder, so it feels like I could just play infinitely. But if it's not infinite, it feels like it kind of drags on too long, like nothing is really changing. So maybe there's some way... Oh, we got what I'm assuming is speed upgrades, and this is the first time I've seen that, which is nice. This is only $1. Yeah, so I like moving faster. But again, it makes it a little harder to control, and that slidiness is just a bit annoying, unfortunately. Just buy the other one. Oh my gosh, I hit that. Alright, yeah, so this movement speed is like... it feels a lot more tolerable, just like I can progress through the game faster, even if it's... even if it actually is probably going to make it harder to avoid damage. Oh, those little red bullets are hard to deal with here. Alright, there's actually kind of a lot of stuff on the screen at this point. I'm starting to feel like, yeah, like some of these other details are starting to get like more annoying because it actually is slightly more challenging at this point. It's not just entirely free, I guess. So like some things like again, the slidiness and the way that the bullets kind of inherit your inertia instead of just going straight in a predictable way and stuff like this starts to get more annoying once the stakes are higher and there's like more things you have to avoid. So yeah, another thing you could do is it can be nice, particularly if you can have more of this like weaving in between bullets and stuff. Once you start picking up speed, it can be kind of hard to control things. So sometimes it's nice to have like a button you could hold down to kind of move slower, to make like little finer adjustments to squeeze between bullets or whatever. Let's just buy all these. Are they shooting bullets fast? Yeah, those are definitely faster. Alright, so that is what I expected it would be. I mean, they're definitely going farther, but it's not like very dramatically faster. I bought like a lot of those upgrades. Yeah, it's definitely faster, but it's, considering how many I bought, it seems like it's been very slightly and very slight and incremental every upgrade. Yeah, see these situations, if you're close to a wall like that, you just can't do anything to avoid that when that blows up. Oh my gosh. Another thing you can consider is just making the player bullets like a little bigger, the collision on them. It's another thing that can just make it a little bit more make it feel a little bit better, so it's not quite so particular with the aiming. Like you can't just, it's not like with a WASD and mouse game where you can just click wherever you want to aim. It's a little bit more particular with the alignment of stuff, and with the enemies being sort of on the small side and the bullets also being kind of small, it's just like a little bit more finicky than maybe you want to line up those bullets to hit the enemies. So it's one of those things where it'll make the game easier, but in a way that just feels better. And so you can kind of work in more challenge in other areas to counteract that. Let's keep jacking up our shot speed. I don't have any more money here except for, could buy that shield thing, I guess, technically. Alright, oh, there's a purple guy here. Alright. Alright, so I did play on the easy mode. I'm not sure how the hard mode is different. I don't know if I necessarily, like, I still don't know if this goes on infinitely. I'm just gonna assume at this point it does, but yeah, I don't get a big sense of progression going on here. Looks like we have a $0 upgrade. That's a good deal. I always like the shot speed, and this is always going to be useful too. It'll just kill enemies faster. I only have 4 left, right? Like, I don't know, at some point the move speed will probably become more detrimental than helpful, I guess. Whoa, okay, yeah, there's an enemy right where you spawn. I have 15 bombs. Oh, hello. Oh, come on. Another key. We have 17 keys. I don't know what we're using the keys for at this point. In fact, I never really knew what the keys are for at all. I guess there's some locked doors that you can use. Or I guess maybe those are the white... I never really put this together, but I guess when it mentions in the page that the white doors are locked, I guess it just meant that you need a key. Which is why I could always walk through them, because I guess I just had a key and I didn't know that I was using them. And I don't think there's ever been a case where I didn't have a key. So it just kind of seems like... Oh, those bullets go all the way over here. Okay. So most of the bullets kind of disappear before then, so it's kind of misleading. Because I don't know if they're going to disappear or not, so I could have tried to avoid them differently if I knew that, but... yeah, so apart from the keys just being overabundant, I think you could kind of communicate a little bit better that that a key is being used when you go through those doors. I also I guess there's a general rule that if there's enemies on the screen you can't go through doors or whatever, but I think that could be visually communicated that the doors are like closed or whatever, even if temporarily. Yeah, so I can't exit right now. Ugh. It still takes a while for my bullets to get over there, but it's also just kind of annoying to try and line up the shots here. Oh, little white things. Wow, that guy just died in one shot. That's kind of nice. Alright. Just gonna ignore that bomb. Alright. We can get more. Do I want free speed? Sure. At this point, it's not like I'm in much danger here. Interesting to have 2 of these rooms kind of smushed together. You usually want to avoid that kind of thing when you're doing like ran gen and whatever. Guess I'll keep buffing my attack. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I'm getting pretty speedy here. Oop, there's a guy there. Alright, this is an enemy. Let's get that coin. Oh, come on. So yeah, the progression is definitely picking up as I get more upgrades, which is kind of interesting, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what you want, because the whole pacing of the game is increasing, but it's in a way that it's like... It's not like it's getting harder, it's not like there's tons more enemies and stuff, it's more that I can move through the rooms faster and I can kill the enemies faster because of the upgrades. So it's sort of like you're starting the game out in a state where everything is very, very slow, then you're very gradually getting up to speed. So in my opinion, it's sort of like once you start getting up to speed, then things just feel better in general, because it's just, you know, you're just moving along faster, you're not waiting around as much for things that don't really matter to you as the player. So I feel like maybe that's not the progression you want, because you don't really want to start out being just boring and dull and the game just kind of feeling bad, and then very gradually transition into the game feeling better. Like ideally it would be, you know, pretty fun to play right from the start, you know, and have kind of a general idea of like the pacing and rate of progression that you want. sort of represented from the beginning rather than relying on these upgrades to kind of eventually get you there. So I think a lot of games tend to do that maybe by just, even if you're increasing your damage output, sometimes it's kind of balanced out by more powerful enemies that take more hits and that kind of thing. I don't necessarily encourage just like completely flattening everything out so that it's like completely fake progression where you just like never get stronger because every time you get stronger the enemies get stronger, and it's just like sort of like the game's lying to you. But I guess sometimes when it comes to the upgrades, it can be a way to think about it. Can be like you get more of certain types of upgrades than others, and it's like you kind of shift the balance of your strength as opposed to just the pacing of the game is just like purely changing overall. It's more of like a balance shift when you get more powerful, but the enemies get more powerful, but the kinds of upgrades you get is kind of what matters as opposed to necessarily the frequency of them or whatever. Or the other thing is like also if you have maybe you have some of the earlier enemies scattered in with the later more powerful enemies, and you can kind of get that sense of like, okay, when the earlier enemies show up you can like wipe them out really easily, but there's still like more powerful enemies to kind of show you that you really kind of need these upgrades to survive and this kind of thing. It can kind of feel good if you kind of get reminded of like, oh, these used to be kind of challenging enemies, but now I'm so strong I can just kind of walk over them. It can kind of feel good. So yeah, I'm still going here. I'm not sure if the game is, maybe it's gradually trying to get more difficult. I don't really get a sense of that much. It's not really difficult still. So yeah, I kind of wish I'd played it on the so-called hard mode to see the difference there. But on the other hand, it's taken so long to get to this point, I don't really want to restart. Especially with how kind of slow the game starts out and how long it takes to get upgrades. It seems like the general progression of everything is very, very gradual. Alright, $0. Looks like there's a key actually overlapping this. So yeah, I couldn't avoid picking that up. Just kind of unfortunate, it was pretty expensive. But that might be something you want to check for in like random generation where you don't want to overlap a key with a purchasable item here. Might be nice if those if those exploding enemies actually like damaged enemies around them or something. That's sort of a common thing in games, but that could be kind of fun. Oops, I forgot that spewed bullets. The fact that all the enemies are just circles, I don't really recognize what they are by looking at them. Like I'm not like remembering what color is what thing. That seems too hard to remember for me. So I'm pretty much relying on the behavior that I see from the enemies to kind of identify them. So some of the enemies don't really show a clear behavior right away, and then sometimes I get kind of surprised at like what actually happens. Some of these enemies that blow up, or like those ones that just like suddenly shoot like a giant blob of purple bullets at you. Some of these are kind of like a little bit unexpected, so I think maybe if you had some a little bit more visual differentiation here between the enemies with different sprites, even if they're just abstract shapes, there's nothing wrong with that. But something other than like everything being circles, I think would be helpful. Alright. Yeah, I'm definitely pretty strong at this point, one-shotting everything, which I'm okay with. Buy this boy. 6 coins. Do I want to move faster? Sure, why not? It's getting a bit harder to control, you know, doing fine movements and stuff, but it definitely feels kind of nice to just get through the rooms faster. Definitely starts to feel a lot nicer. So yeah, it seems like throughout the playtest, it's like I'm very gradually getting close to where I feel like the game should have been in the first place in terms of like the general pacing and speed of things. Which is kind of funny if you think about it. Alright, yeah, so making these little fine movements is pretty hard to shoot such a small enemy here. Alright. Yeah, so I guess at some point when you're really moving fast, I think it gets harder to avoid this, especially if you're going like up and down, because the area here between the top and bottom wall is kind of narrow. If you're just holding up and you go through the door, you kind of spawn right here, I think, and then you're just gonna keep going up, and it's like there's pretty likely to be some enemy in the middle here or whatever, and when you're moving so fast and with the little slidey effect and everything all together, it's going to be hard to react to that. Like, even if they're not spawning directly on top of you, at some point it's going to get a little hard to react to actually just not run into things. So there might be ways you can help with that a little bit. For one thing, I think you could do to like yeah, you're kind of spawning the player like right here, I guess, when they go through the door. I think you could do to like open this up as sort of like a little area that the player can exist in inside the square. So maybe they can just spawn like down here, which would give them a little bit more time as they enter here to like, you know, potentially avoid running into something and that kind of thing. I think that would just feel better. I don't know, it doesn't have to necessarily be smushed all the way to the bottom of the screen, but that's just, you know, an idea. You could move the player back here a little bit further. You might want to like prevent any enemies from coming, you know, actually entering these areas. Maybe this wall would prevent enemies from, you know, going in there or something. It could potentially avoid some issues with that. But that's just one idea. I mean, another thing is you might want to just, I mean, you could, in theory, you could like have like a third of a second or something after you transition between rooms where you can't like keep moving or something. But I'm not sure how that would feel. I don't know if that would be annoying, but it's another idea, I guess. But yeah, it definitely seems like kind of a common problem, especially like I said, once you start picking up speed and everything, it's like really easy. Even if the enemies aren't literally spawning on top of you, you end up kind of running into stuff. Plenty of keys. Oh. Cladder's a little particular on these items. You could make them a little bit bigger just for the sake of, you know, quality of life, just to feel a little bit nicer. Like, yeah, it's interesting that you can you can overlap the items visually without picking them up, but like if you overlap any bullets by like a single pixel, it ends up counting as a hit against you. Oh wait, this is okay. All right, that was the wrong assessment. I don't know if this actually is the same. Yeah, it's probably not the same with other things. I guess it just I clearly I can't pick this one up, so I made a mistake there, but it does seem like my movement's so hard and so fast it's hard to make little like super fine adjustments to actually test that out. But there's the enemy here. Oh, I tried to squeeze. Alright, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to make the colliders just a smidge bigger. It's not a big deal. Just make it, you know, ever so slightly easier to pick things up. You can avoid some of these situations where the player, like, kind of quickly tries to grab something and then turn around, but then they kind of missed it ever so slightly, and then they have to turn around again. It's a very small thing, but it can be kind of nice. Alright, I don't actually get that. Alright, yeah, so we're still going here. Again, I don't think there's any more enemies. There's not like a higher frequency of enemies that I can tell. So maybe I should wrap this up. So again, it definitely feels like the game is just going and going and not really progressing. It's just still going, so it's like, I feel like I need to keep playing, but the game isn't actually going anywhere else, so it's kind of weird. I can't hit that guy. Oh no. Alright, it's going to be harder to line up. Like, I got so many speed upgrades, it's getting quite hard to line up these shots. Alright, now we got fast bullets. There we go. A little bit faster. Definitely feels better than it did at the start, for sure. Well, I got my fingers on the wrong buttons. Ah, okay. I thought there was some funny business with the collision on next to the walls here, but I've never actually done this. Alright, that's quite weird. There's definitely some weirdness with the collision. Like, the first thing I noticed is that, like, if you run into a wall, and then you let off the button, you kind of sink into the wall a little bit, and that was something I mentioned right at the very start. I don't know if I made that clear, but it doesn't seem to actually break anything, but like, you don't get stuck in the wall, which is great, but it looks a little funny. But the fact that you can kind of burrow through side of this here, and it doesn't look like I'm going out of bounds, at least not on the... Oh, I can go behind the door here. Yeah, so it doesn't let you go out of bounds, really. It's just kind of behind the door, sort of. It's kind of silly. Alright, so we should probably wrap this up. I think... Oh, I don't have any more coins. I should be pretty strong by now. I think I'm just going to one-shot everything. Of course, with this being in a game in development, we can't expect it to have tons and tons of enemies, but... yeah, I didn't know coming into this that it would just kind of go on infinitely. I figured that, like, eventually it would lead to something, you know, or like, if not some kind of a level completion, then at least it would, you know, at least manage to get harder in a way that I would eventually be forced to die or whatever. Which, I mean, for all I know, that might get kind of frustrating too, but if nothing else, it's nice to have some kind of an element of, like, how far you've gotten. It seems to be kind of completely absent here, so... many games have some kind of levels or whatever that kind of give you, like, a numerical idea of how far you've gotten in the game. So in this case, if you had... even if everything is essentially the same, if there was just some point where you find, you know, like an exit or something that just brings you to the next level, even if it just progresses the same as this one did, you know, like, even if you didn't change anything between the levels, at least it would give you an idea of, like, okay, I've been playing for 30 minutes and I've survived this whole time, and I've gotten to level 20 or something. You know, it just gives you some kind of idea, like, okay, you've actually made progress in the game. This is how far you've gotten. Whereas what you have right now doesn't have that, so it's just it just has, like, no real sense of progression at all that I can tell. Like, I have no idea how long I've been playing or how many rooms I've gone through. There's no, like, distance into the dungeon or something that'll give me an idea of any kind of progression. Alright, so I could try the hard mode real quick. I don't know I'll be able to tell the difference, but I guess there's only one way to find out. Oh gosh, it's hard. Coins. Alright. Yeah, so this is just kind of leading nothing forever. It's a weird feeling because, you know, playing games for so many years, there's the sense that you just kind of keep going until you can't anymore, right? Because it just gets too hard. Or, you know, if you're good enough, it'll eventually be like, okay, you win the game or whatever. So it's just a very weird kind of sensation to have a game like this where I'm just kind of compelled out of, I don't know if it's just out of expectation for how games work or just the nature of games in general. I'm compelled to just kind of keep playing until something happens, but nothing ever happens. So it's definitely a little weird feeling. So I guess I have to sort of force myself to stop here. I never tried the spacebar to return to the previous room. Looks like I used up one charge. I don't know what the remaining green block on the right is. Looks like it's already back full. Oh, so I guess you just go through two doors and then it recharges. The thing is, you can, like, if there's two already open rooms, you can just pass through two doors to charge it up like that, which is kind of weird, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so that I had never had any reason to use that, I guess. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna F5 the page here. I'm gonna click on hard. Okay, the hard mode is you literally start the game with an enemy on top of you killing you. Alright. So, as we can see, we're starting with base stats, which are dramatically slower. I only have 1 health now because an enemy spawned on top of me. Now, what might the differences be here? I could guess that I think you start with like 3 health or something, and then maybe there's just less power-ups and coins, maybe? Oh my gosh, this is so slow. Alright, now I have to kill all these. Alright. Yeah, it feels so slow. Yeah, so I'm guessing that's what the difference is going to be. And you're not like changing the behavior of the enemies or whatever, which would of course be a lot harder. It's definitely a more ambitious way to try to change difficulty in generally speaking. But on the other hand, I mean, pretty much in my experience here, the power-ups have basically served to just kind of make the game go by faster and just kind of feel better, I guess. And because even though I have like no power-ups, it doesn't really feel any harder to deal with enemies generally. I mean, they don't die in one hit, so it's like, yeah, it's technically harder, but for the most part, I'm just enjoying the power-ups for the sake of the way they adjust the pacing, like I said. Alright, so we should wrap this up. I'm gonna Just hit F5 again. So yeah, my general thoughts. I think I pretty much rambled everything that I think about this throughout the video here. But yeah, so I would start. I mean, this is kind of like shmup 101 type of stuff. Where I mean, a lot of people make these sorts of mistakes, but pretty much ideal situation for shoot 'em ups is like you want to have a nice small hitbox. You don't want to have any inertia on your movement generally. Sometimes for omni shooters like this, it's like kind of you can get away with it, but I think I would say more with like the ones that use the mouse aiming. It's sort of like, it's okay. But in general, I think it's ideal to not have any inertia. I think you'll do a lot better removing the little slidey effect here. I would bump up the movement speed considerably. I would really crank up the speed of the shots from the player. Maybe consider increasing the rate of fire a little bit, and maybe you could also maybe have like a power up that does that. And that would probably be cool. Although that would also function to like increase the damage output, so that's something else to consider. But definitely make your shots have a higher velocity, and maybe consider making them a little bigger, so that's a little easier to hit things. I would remove the inherited inertia here. Or velocity, I guess, from the bullets. Make them a lot more consistent, and it just feels better and less annoying when they're not going off in directions you're not expecting. And in terms of the enemies and their bullets and stuff, just make sure that you really want to kind of aim for situations where the player can kind of weave between the bullets somewhat. So it doesn't have to be straight up bullet hell where you're, filling the entire screen with bullets and stuff like that, but just try to design the spreads of bullets so that there's room in between them to move through. And when you get like multiple enemies in the rooms, you also like want to kind of consider that, so that if you have like 4 different enemies and they're all spewing bullets, that they don't like make these kind of I don't know, insurmountable walls of bullets or whatever, that you can still find gaps in them in that context. That's kind of an ideal. That's good for working towards. I think you have some reasonable ideas here for your enemies and stuff, but they're not, they're not particularly challenging as is. So you could kind of crank up the challenge there a little bit. Ideally, you don't want to go too hard in the start or whatever, but maybe you could have them shoot a little bit more, and maybe increase their bullet speed a little bit. I would not suggest, like I said, you should definitely, in my opinion, you should definitely crank up the velocity of the player bullets, but I would not suggest making the enemy bullets as fast, because that's definitely bad news. But you might be able to, in some situations, speed them up a little bit from what you have. Maybe, or you could kind of keep them the same speed and just have more of them kind of being thrown out into the world here. Because yeah, definitely enemy bullets you don't want to have too fast, especially if you want the player to be able to kind of like weave and dodge between them. You can actually make them fairly slow. That tends to work better, because if they're like really fast, it kind of creates a gameplay where you're kind of forced to just like strafe around things in circles, which kind of devolves into something quite uninteresting a lot of the time, and it can be quite frustrating in some senses, in some circumstances, when like bullets fly into you that you feel like you couldn't really avoid because you just didn't have the time or whatever. So yeah, I think these are like really kind of small details that go into making shmups feel like a lot more satisfying than what you have here, but these are like really easy changes to make, so I hope you'll consider them. And yeah, it's definitely a good start to something. It's just it's good to have like a lot of room for improvement of things that can lead to something that just feels better, especially if they're quite easy changes to make and such. So yeah, hopefully this was useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one.